Wait, Steve, do you have the date that we canceled? Do you know which game that was?
I can look it up real quick. It's not too hard.
All right, just maybe I have that.
Oh wait, it was the Brewers game where we lost like 1-0. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, August 10th.
August. Yep. There we go. That was it.
Yeah.
I was in town for that. I remember that. Yeah, that was it.
Yep. Yeah, because that was the night the Browns and the Bengals played their first preseason games, and I'm like, you know what? Now's a good time as ever.
And I think we have been about 500 since then too. So
yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, welcome back to Reds Country Baseball. It is September 5th. The Reds came in to face the red-hot Houston Astros and swept them out of Great American Ballpark. Surely they must be playing serious baseball in September in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, they are not a serious baseball team, so they are not playing serious baseball. I'm Donnie. We're going to talk about it. Steve, Rob, how you guys doing?
What's going on?
We have canceled the Red season already. It is currently football season. That's right. The NFL starts this weekend. College started last weekend. It's a very freeing feeling. So we're going to eulogize this season, talk about what went wrong, what we could go right next year. But hopefully this is a very, enjoyable episode because the expectations are gone. The season is over. There's free baseball left that we can just watch and enjoy without feeling, a heart-wrenching sense of loss. That happened about a month ago. We canceled the season, however you want to say it, on August 10th after a brutal 1-0 loss to the Brewers. That was it. And then, of course, they won 4 straight after that, and we thought maybe we had canceled prematurely. And then, of course, they got swept by the somewhat decent Royals at home, and that was that.
Yeah. Not great, I'd say. Not a great way to really kind of give your team and your fans some optimism. I pulled it recently, but after Spencer Steer had that quote after that Game 2 of the Braves series, where Game 3 was rained out that night, he talked about, this is winning time right now. And then there's been a couple Jonathan India quotes about, like really trying to make the playoffs and stuff. And then it seems that whenever we give a quote, we instantly go right down the tubes. So maybe next year, no quotes. Maybe we just put our heads down and play some ball.
Yeah, talk's cheap, fellas. Talk is cheap.
Man.
Yeah. I saw our guy Reds in 4 talking about this, and and I mean, what are you going to say in a press conference? Like, oh yeah, we're not trying, or things like that. Like, obviously there's things you got to say as an athlete, or a professional baseball player, but so many unforced errors, the whole, I liked the America's team. I wasn't mad about that, but it is kind of funny that they were almost 500 since that point, right until now, after they said they called themselves America's team. Just a couple things where they're being young and cocky, which I don't mind. I like, but it's well, I kind of wish we had played a little bit better to back that up, to be honest.
It's funny. It's funny how all those moments tend to coincide with peaks. Rather than in the middle of the momentum swing, that's pretty much when you can say, all right, we're going to lose 6 of 7 now. Reminds me that you always see that in my world, in the finance and investing world. As soon as your grandma's getting into crypto, it's probably time to sell.
Yeah, that's also I'm not going to say I'm the coolest person ever, but yeah, it's the same thing, Don, when something cool is happening and then the nerd, some nerd or somebody that you don't think is cool is using the phrase or using the meme, then you kind of know it's on its way out.
Yeah, so, it's all right, time to wrap it up here.
Yep. We had our run with that. So in the eulogy sense there, Don, I tried to think of a really good moment from this year, and it was hard to come by, to be honest. We had all those walk-off wins last year. We only had the one earlier this year before last week, obviously.
Can you believe that we just got our second
and third
walk-off and third, but second walk-off recently, within the last week? That's crazy.
Yeah, a week ago. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, well, so I was trying to really think about it, Don, and I maybe like that 6-game winning streak we had earlier in the season, but that was in like June. It's unfortunate to think about, but like Rob, can you like illuminate any like specific moments for me, because I can't. I felt sad saying it, but I couldn't really think of like any specific like awesome great moments.
Yeah, if you're going back to that winning streak in June, that's whenever they won. I believe they swept the Yankees. Or that was the beginning of July.
Yeah.
Trying to find it. I know they swept the Rockies in Colorado. That was pretty cool. That was kind of expected.
The Rhys Hines experience might be up there.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, for sure. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then he kind of got demoted immediately after.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't really do very well in AAA. And
yeah.
Now he's back, but out of necessity, really.
Yeah, and then Don, you're right though too. Like there was like a couple of those moments where they swept. There was like 4 times. I think it's 4 times now, because they swept. They swept the Cardinals, right? And then they got him. Oh no, sorry, that was the 3rd time. They've been swept immediately after sweeping another team 3 times this year. Like
that's crazy.
Like it's not good.
And then how many weeks in a row did we have where we lost a Sunday game?
Yeah,
or at very least
in a row.
Like 9 or 10 in a row, something like that.
Our record in final games of the series, it's crazy.
Yeah, 1-run games. It just seemed like there was a lot of like youthful mistakes, and I don't think all the player they didn't want to just blame it on the players, so the fans blamed it on David Bell. We talked about the contact play a lot this year. There was just a lot of things going on that just did not really go well for us this year.
Steve, so how do you make sense of that when this team was even younger last year and we won all those one-run games? We had a bunch of amazing comebacks. We're going to have had a better record last year than this year, almost certainly. You would have thought that a year of experience would have helped in some of those regards. Why didn't it go right?
Well, I think you can really lead it on 3 guys. And like, I don't really want to criticize Jake Fraley. He's been having like a tough family year, and you guys all know about that. So, but like not having the same production that you had from Fraley, Marte, and Benson. Those are 3 guys who played 80 or more games. Like that's a huge killer to what this team was. I don't really want to just use the crutch of injuries, because you still had a good enough team without, and then obviously as the season went on, more guys got injured, but you still had a good enough team without McLean to really produce. And I think it was just that they never had a sustained offensive run. Like our pitching staff was really good until, again, unfortunately they all got hurt in like mid-August, but we had a pretty solid 1, 2, 3 there for May, June, July.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Hunter Green had pitched himself into the Cy Young conversation, which is crazy. I mean, he was very good. Every single start, you knew you were getting 6 or 7 really, really damn good innings. And I we canceled on August 10th, and then we had that good stretch there, which was right around the time all those guys got injured. Man, if that didn't happen, obviously a bunch of what ifs, but if it's every single starting pitcher went down, and this is of course right after we traded Montas, so we're already 1 pitcher short, and then Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Andrew Abbott all on the IL within a couple weeks after that trade. And right around the time we could have used a little momentum. If those guys are healthy, the rest of August, if you flip 3 wins, say, and they're sitting at around 500 right now, still a long shot, but season's not quite over, maybe.
You're surely not 9.5 games out of the final wild card spot if that happens.
Yeah, so you can pull these like good moments where they're good players that played really good baseball for certain stretches. Tyler Stevenson has played great baseball for most of the second half and even a lot of the first half. Ellie's obviously been great. Guys like Candelario, although also hurt now, had a really good stretch. Steer was really hot earlier in the season and played solidly for most of the season. You've got all these little moments there, and of course the pitching, that if you could just put it all together and avoid most of your injuries, it's a whole different year.
Yeah, and I think that's like the curse of Sposta too, just because like we kind of had that like thought at the start of the season, like, oh yeah, they're going to be great, like they will be able to like produce what we thought they could do, and like it's just it's been blamed on David Bell, which I think is a little bit unfair. I don't really think it's him. He's not really the guy that's doing any of this. Like, he's not going out and throwing every day or hitting every day. But I do kind of think it's been a lot of like those guys just like, falling off, and no real sustained run. And I'm pulling up like our schedule right now just because I'm curious, what like our month splits were, because that'll tell me a lot. So, May they go 9-18, August they went 12-17, but every other month they were above 500. And right now September 4-0, July 13-11, June 14-13, April 14-13, March 2-1. So but I think that May and then August as well. They were both just killers for them. If they had gone 500 in either of those months, obviously they'd be 500 now. But I don't think we've talked about it since our last show. But Barry Larkin is not really known for saying much on the broadcast, but he kind of brought up a good point a couple weeks ago on the broadcast where he talked about mediocrity is not good enough and we shouldn't be pushing to be 500. And a lot of people took that a lot of different ways, but I think the crux of the argument was that, this is a young team and they should be pushed to be better than 500, which I can agree with. I completely stand by, and I understand where he gets that. And I kind of wonder if the front office was a little bit mad at him for saying that, because he holds a lot of voice in that organization, whether you like that or not about Barry. His words carry a lot of weight.
Yeah. People very passionately about him, and so many people that still live in Cincinnati grew up where he was like the greatest player in baseball for a long stretch, whatever. And so to have such a Reds legend that has a pretty vocal voice like that, people want him to be the manager. I don't think he would ever do that. I don't think he wants that.
I don't want that.
Yeah, and it's almost like the same problem with people say that David Bell only has the role because of nepotism or whatever else. It would almost be the same way if you gave the role to a guy like Barry Larkin, where he only got the role as manager of a baseball team because he was a really good baseball player. And sure, there's some correlation there, but there's also a lot of examples of where that just doesn't really work well. Because sure, I don't know, Barry's got his takes. I don't think he's the best on the broadcast, and maybe he's a great hitter, and is he the best? He's a little awkward sometimes. I don't know that he'd be the best clubhouse guy. I think guys would get over the fact that they're they would only be in awe of the Reds legend for so long, and then it would just be Coach Barry. I don't
right.
know.
Steve, I want to go back. What did you say our record was in August?
It was 12-17.
12-17. Okay. Because I'm looking at the schedule now. I'm kind of seeing kind of where it all kind of fell apart was after the Royal sweep, and then obviously they take 2 or 3 from the Blue Jays, and they lose 2 or 3 from the Pirates. They lose 2 or 3 to the A's. They get swept by the Brewers. Sorry, that's just where I don't know where I was going. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just
flesh it out.
Saw it interesting.
Losing 3 of 4 to the Pirates and 2 of 3 to the Athletics. I mean, you can't do that. It had to be we needed that to be the opposite. And if Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo are fully healthy and making those starts, I fully believe we would have won at least 3 more games than that. And so that would give you an above 500 month right there.
Whatever it is about the Pirates, man, we never seem to play well at PNC. We cannot win games there. And I thought we had that Sunday game locked up and we had had a split, but then we give up a walk-off bomb. We haven't really done that much this year, on walk-off losses, but that one was crushing, especially to Yasmani Grandal.
Did you guys watch that game at all?
I think I listened to a little bit on the radio.
Literally during as it was all happening, they were talking about on the broadcast. They were talking about how many saves in a row Diaz had and how great he had been lately, and how he hadn't given up a walk off or whatever. And literally as they're getting these words out, boom, deep fly.
Wow,
good. That's how it works.
Yep,
always.
Yep, that's unfortunately how it is with this team. But you know what? Enough of the negative. I do want to think about some positives. So, Donnie, I'm sorry I talked over you. What were some positives for you from this year?
So I mentioned Tyler Stevenson. I've been very impressed by how he bounced back. He started out a little slow, but after that, he's been super consistent. He's gotten better as a catcher. His framing is really good. I think he's a leader out there. I think the pitchers love working with him, which was not the case when he was a rookie. And so I've seen a lot of improvement there. And he's such a great hitter. He's not your big, modern day 2024, just pull the ball over the fence or, he really hits the ball where it's pitched. He has such a great approach. And he can do both the slap singles, doubles to the gaps, and also hit home runs when he needs to. I mean, he's such a fun player to watch play. And I'm glad we have him. And I'm glad people thought he was going to be totally a bust after kind of a struggling last year. And I'm really, really glad to see him turn it around.
Stevenson leads the team in batting average. He's currently batting .266, and he has an .810 OPS.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Solid. Only a little bit behind Ellie on the OPS.
Yeah. And Ellie's just behind him in batting average, so there you go.
Yeah, there you go. The other big player I want to shout out who's having a very solid, if not crazy impressive year after kind of also being written off is John India. He basically had no spot on this team before Marte got busted for the steroids, and before Matt McClain went down. India was shagging fly balls. They were talking about him coming off the bench, playing left field, maybe DHing occasionally, and he really didn't have to do that. With the injuries we had and with the suspension, he ended up being the regular second baseman. Still not the best infielder in the world, but I think he's improved a little bit there. He's clearly still, taking on the leadership role. One of the older guys on the team for sure, one of the most tenured at least, and he had a really solid year at the plate. He's, you look at his stat line, and it's not going to blow you away. It's not going to get you in any All-Star games, but the easiest thing to look at there is that OPS plus, and he has a 109 OPS plus across an entire baseball season where he's played 130 games, and 100 is at league average, and he's at 109 and a leader on this team. So I think those two guys stand out to me as having put together really, really solid years. And it wasn't like it was a rookie kind of fluke year. Those guys have been in the league for a while now. So where other guys kind of pulled back, like Will Benson, let's say, Noelvi Marte, not having great years, those guys stepped forward.
I'm not sure if you mentioned this, Don, but India is leading the team in on-base percentage at .351. So
yeah, he's got a great eye. I think
words the immortal Billy Bean, he gets on base.
Yeah, there was someone who was posting stats about how many pitches he sees, and I know those numbers are really good. He walks a lot, and I think he balances that well with jumping on pitches when he has to. He learned a lot from Joey Votto probably while Votto was here.
No doubt.
I love India, man. Like, I want to talk about this a little bit more in depth later. We have a topic that we want to discuss, but like so I work in insurance, and there's nothing, it's not a thing that you think about until you really need it, right? But I think you can say that about Jonathan India. He's been the Reds' best insurance policy. He's played almost every day. I don't think he's gone on the IL once this year, although these IL announcements keep piling up. I swear we had one like every day for a good 2.5 weeks there in the middle of August. Because I get the Twitter notifications sent directly to me for the @Reds account, and it was a good solid, I swear it was 2.5 weeks. It was every day where today's roster moves, and it was that big red template. But I really like
Steve. India's played 131 games this year.
Yeah, so he's been there mostly every day, and he's probably going to try and play 155 once if he can. I don't know if he can get 162, but he's played in mostly every game. Mm-hmm. So I think that's got to have some value, and I don't think you. I was talking to our guy Solely Reds today, who's part of the No Laying Up podcast, and he was talking about how India doesn't really have much of an outside trade value, but he's an intangible asset to the Reds in that he stays healthy, plays every day, and was willing enough to play wherever. I don't really get into as much of like the leaders guy stuff as other fans do because, it is nice to have him in that role, but like he's just a dude that'll go out there and give you 150 games every year. And he's proven that over the last 2 years. So I don't really see any reason to get rid of him. I want to keep him.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely. Does he have one more year of team control after this?
Believe he's got 2 because he started in 21. So, 3, right? Because it's 7 years of team control. So, and he started.
I think it's 6.
6? Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Let's see. He's free agent eligible in 2027. So 2 more seasons.
Yeah, 2 more seasons. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, if he really goes off in 2026, I mean, hopefully you're like really competing by then. And like I mean, like I think the nice thing about India is that like while he has not been traded, which, you say what you want from a Reds standpoint of not getting better prospects in, I think it's good that they have been able to hold on to a player like him. And he's probably going to play every day next year just because of like, unfortunately, how these things go. And like, he'll be able to fill in different spots. And I think it's a good thing to have a guy like that who plays every day. And the guys seem to like him a lot. Like that's only a net positive for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a crowded roster again, which is, there's definitely the fan out there that thinks we need to blow it up or bring in all these free agents. And I think there's place for that. I think it's crazy that the Reds haven't had a guy hit more than 23 home runs in the last 3 seasons.
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, we play in Great American Ballpark. Like, we should have a guy that can hit 30, 35 at least. I think that is what this team was missing. When you're running out Jake Fraley or Will Benson in your outfield every day, and the power just isn't there. Those guys combined for 18 home runs, Benson with 14 of those. And he's got the power bat, but he's just so hit or miss, batting below 200 on the year. That it's not quite enough home runs to make that worth it. And Fraley, basically lost all his power after he got sick. Who knows if that'll come back? But I don't see either of those guys being regular players next year. So bringing in an outfielder or whatever else, I'll be interested to see how they do that. On that point, we've talked about a couple guys that have kind of worked their way into the plans for next year when they really were just stopgap players. The 2 that come to mind on that would be Santiago Espinal and Ty France. Ty France coming over in trade near the deadline, and he's played very well since he joined the team, batting over 300 with a 825 OPS, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, playing first base almost exclusively, while Candelario has been out, and of course Strand has been out. So who knows when those guys are back next year, what his role would be. Maybe someone is trade bait, but Ty France has been great, and I think he's well liked by the team. I think he has earned a spot on the roster next year. And of course, Santiago Espinal started off pretty mediocre, but over the last 2 months has been like one of the hottest players in baseball. I'm pretty sure his on-base percentage is over 500 in that stretch. He was batting over nearly 500 for a while. I think that's calmed down to being still solidly like at 400, over a pretty long stretch. He's hitting with power too. He steals bases. He's great in the field. Like, this guy should be a regular player next year as well, even when we're healthy. And I hope we find a way to get him at bats. Any thoughts on either of those 2 guys?
I really like Ty France. I thought he was a great pickup at the deadline, or it's turned out to be a great pickup at least. He didn't really move the needle much when they first picked him up, but he's obviously proven with his play on the field that he's could be a valuable asset to this team next year. Be a heck of a weapon to have coming off your bench, at least if they decide to keep him going into next year.
Yeah, him and Espinal. Like, I was just looking up Espinal's splits for the year. He had a 420 OPS in June, 1.184 OPS in July, 887 in August, September/October. He's got a 984, and that's even before today's game. So I really like what both of them have done, and they've kind of earned their way on to next year's roster. And I kind of like having the idea of having like a recession-proof couple of veterans. Like, they're not like old by any sense, but they've been around the block a few times. I like having Ty France. He seems like the guys like him, and he single-handedly, I mean, he scored the only run of today's game to finish off the sweep. So
yellow shot.
like 9. hit 9 for 11 this series too, which was pretty good, I'd say. I kind of think, we talked about this at the deadline, and you guys are making me realize a point where, like, we weren't trying to trade for guys like for just only a half a season. We wanted guys with more longevity, and I think we've got Espinal for 2 more years. I don't know about France. I think he might only be 1 more year, but
he is 1 more season. Yes.
Okay, but like that's the kind of moves you're making. I mean, I know we made the Espinal move at the start of the season, but those are the kind of moves you're making right now. If you're the Reds, you're trying to get guys with multiple years of control, and it's turned out pretty well for them. Like maybe we weren't giving Kroll enough credit at the deadline when he did this, but he saw something that he liked. And credit to Ty France too. The players still got to go out and make those adjustments in that transition. And he's played really well for us. So it's certainly not his fault that we've kind of fallen off the wagon. I think everything else around them, but those 2 players have done a lot to like kind of back that up.
Yeah, it can't be easy to join a team like the Reds. Unfortunately, like getting traded to a team that's kind of not in the mix or falling out of the mix, and having to play your way into a contract. Hey, it's a good problem to have, I guess. Good for them, Steven. I think it's also funny you mentioned how those guys are verging on being older players, and Espinal and Ty France are both within about 6 months of my age and Rob's age, I imagine.
They'll both be 30 by spring training next year.
Which is so will I. I know we've got about a year on you, Steve, but it's kind of funny. We're kind of to the point now that if we were professional athletes, we would be
over the hill,
kind of over the hill a little bit, or at least right at that point. So a lot of the more talented players on this roster are kind of between 28 and 30 right now, which I think is a good time to have them. Those players are still under team control. We're not worrying about signing big contracts for these 30-year-olds, but having 1 or 2 more years of them, I think is a good kind of sweet spot to be. And then let them go off when they're 32 and ancient. Let some other teams sign them and get disappointed, like we always love to do. So, With that, the conversation does begin. So, like when everyone's healthy, even Stuart Fairchild, who we mentioned, who also just got injured. That one came out of the blue for me. I don't even remember that happening in game, and then suddenly he's just like out for the year. But he's had a quietly productive-ish year. Not the best year at the plate, but against lefties specifically, he's really solid, and he's a really good outfielder and a really fast base runner. So like we think he probably has a spot on the roster next year. And then suddenly you're looking at, so there was 3 guys that were pointed out on Twitter today. At Soli_Reds was tweeting this, and you send it to our group. Noelvi Marte, Will Benson, and Christian Encarnacion Strand, all players that we have seen flashes of being really, really good and flashes of being really, really bad for long stretches. CES, of course, kind of got hurt a little too early to prove that, but he was not having a good year to start. Those 3 guys are going to be healthy and on the roster potentially next year, but also are still in there. They haven't burned an option this year. So that was they saved all those 3 of those guys, saved an option. They have not been sent down to the minor leagues, but could that happen next year? Do those guys start the year in Louisville? Because of the names that we've mentioned, the more established, you've got an infielder like Santiago Espinal who's going to be 30 years old and proven he's been an all-star. He had an incredible year here. And I get that Noelvi Marte has all this upside, but he'll still just be 23. Start him in AAA? I say yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Depending on obviously what moves they make this offseason, who's going to be coming in and trying to vie for spots in spring training. I mean, I think it makes sense for, like you said, maybe Marte to start down in Louisville. I wouldn't be surprised if Benson's still on the roster if he starts down in Louisville. They've got some interesting moves to make coming up for sure. I think it all just depends on what they decide to do as far from a personnel standpoint.
I'd be a little surprised if Benson was down there, but he is. Yeah, Donnie, your comment. He was funny because he's 26 and now I'm 28. So I'm like, oh shit, like I'm 2 years older than Will Benson. That's crazy. So
he's got a kid, Steve. He's
I know. Yeah, I'm slacking. Yeah. So, but the thing about that too is that I kind of would be not surprised if they moved on from Fraley, after this offseason and only kept Benson, just because they're both left-handed power bats, and you've got Benson for more years of control than you do Fraley. So I'm kind of wondering if that's a little bit of what's going into that decision, maybe. And I don't know like which upside you would prefer with Fraley or Benson, but like I said that tweet to the group because it made sense to me. You know, it's like these guys like Marte and Benson have played this year, but they have not really like locked down their spot for next year. And CES, you know, like you said, same thing with Marte. There's a lot of upside to him, but he's not been able to show it in, you know, only, 80 games at the major league level, right? He didn't really play like a crazy amount last year, but I kind of wonder if, you know, putting a fire under these guys and making them earn it a little bit would be good for them. And obviously, CES had a big camp last year, and he didn't make the team out of spring training, and people were a little bit upset about that. Came up halfway through the year and was able to produce here and there for them. And this year he was obviously hurt. So, but and I think the only young guys that you can really say are solidified on this team, and talking about age again, I don't really consider India and Stevenson young, even though they're younger than me. So I guess they are technically young. But I would say that
that's right, Steve. That for the rest of our lives, anyone younger than us, they're young. They're young.
Yeah.
They got so much.
Yeah, they're young.
I'll be saying that at 55.
You're young. You got a whole life to live. But you know, Sess is 24, Marte's 22, and Benson is 26. Those guys have a little bit more time now. Maybe Benson is a little bit older, obviously, but those guys still have some time. So I kind of wonder if they're just going to let those guys, you know, really marinate a little bit in AAA, and you start the season with, you know, Espinal, France. I think McLean and Ellie are your only two solidified, like young guys that are on the roster next year. Everyone else.
No, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
I was going to just say everyone else, it's up for grabs.
I'm going to kind of turn this point a little bit and say I think out of those three guys we have going across the bottom screen there, Marte, Benson, Sess, I'm going to say Sess is probably the least likely to start in Louisville just because I think obviously he got hurt early this year, didn't really get to prove what he can do. And I think that the organization kind of has him pegged as the first baseman of the future. And I think they're going to give him a lot more of a runway or a lot more of a longer leash than they would these other guys, and, you know, let him battle through his slumps and everything like that. So that's my prediction, at least.
I think I could agree with that, Rob. I think especially because of his potential to be a big power bat. Like the Reds are missing that on the roster right now.
Absolutely.
Sure they have the potential to go out and get maybe an outfielder, maybe anyone really in the free agency market or in trade that could be that guy, but they also could have that in CES right there. And that doesn't make the fans super happy because they want to see roster change.
And I think in a perfect world, he's probably your cleanup hitter.
Yeah. I would love to see him prove that he deserves, to be. I've liked seeing, has TJ Friedel basically been in that role lately?
Recently, from what I've seen, yeah.
Yeah, because I think since Stevenson's been so solid, he's been batting in the 3-hole. TJ Friedel's a guy we haven't really mentioned, and he's only played 65 games this year. And so hopefully if he can have a full year healthy next year, he's still young enough where he should be a really solid player. And I mean, he's got 10 home runs, and I think he hit those 10 home runs. He might be, he hit them pretty quickly. He's definitely on pace to be a 25 home run guy if he's healthy. So there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, the Friedel is. I think like your 13 guys. The locks are Friedel, Fairchild, Ellie, McLean, Stevenson, Steer, Espinal, France, India, and then there's
Candelario. Did you mention him?
I did not mention him, but yeah, he is signed. So
although they could definitely trade him.
You think so? Like
they got it for 2 more years, so there's a little bit of leverage there, and
there is.
Yeah,
so that's on the older side, though.
That's what I was going to maybe mention. Who would you consider using for trade value on this roster currently, or who could you see them just straight up non-tendering?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to kind of get some of the cut the chaff a little bit, like obviously like Martini and like there's a couple different guys, but If I had to pick one, I kind of wonder if they wouldn't dangle Benson out there.
I was just thinking that, Steve. I was getting ready to say, do you think they would probably entertain a trade for Benson?
Yeah, I mean, maybe people will like his underlying numbers and give him an everyday chance to play. I would hate that because I like him as a person and I've liked what he's done for us. But I also kind of wonder if people would really be interested in him because he's the player has been like decent this year, but 14 bombs, 675 OPS, 84 OPS plus, like. And he's, mostly just playing against right-handed pitching. Like, I don't know how many teams are going to really, bang down the door for that.
Yeah, he's a super streaky player too. Like when he's on, he looks like he's the best player in baseball. Whenever he's not playing well, he looks like he's the worst player in baseball.
I bet there's a team out there. Sorry, go ahead, Rob. Finish.
I kind of had to pump the brakes this year on my Will Benson hype because in one of the first podcasts we didn't start the season, I thought he was going to be like a star and explode in the outfield. That clearly hasn't been it.
I bet there's a team that could see his swing, see the big home run, the big contact hits that he does make, and say, hey, if we see some things here that we can work on, get those strikeout numbers down. You cut out a fourth of those strikeouts and put a fourth of those balls in play. His numbers could definitely start getting pretty impressive pretty quickly. So I'm kind of disappointed that the Reds haven't been able to figure something out there because it's been consistent this entire season that he's just going to strike out a ton. And, that's okay if you're a player like Ellie that is absolutely electric when you do put the ball in play. But you can't be a 150 strikeout guy and only batting, under 200 and only 14 home runs. You got to have at least double that, I would say.
Yeah, you got to be on Suarez levels if you want to be striking out that much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Suarez to strike out that much, but he'd still hit you 30 home runs a year.
Right.
I'm looking at Benson's batting average right now. He's only batting $193. Like, who's going to want that?
Yeah, but again, if you see the pure power and know that he still is a pretty young player, if you think fix a few things.
What about Marte? You think Marte might be that guy?
Now that's definitely interesting. I think we're pretty high on him, of course, but man, we got other young infielders, knocking at the door. Arroyo will be healthy next year.
I was kind of playing with a scenario like that in my head earlier today because we were talking about doing the pod. And if they trade Marte, would you move Ellie back to third base, stick McLean at short, either have Arroyo or India play second base for you next year? I wouldn't hate that, certainly, but this is just a hypothetical scenario.
Makes a lot of sense. I think it stinks that Marte basically lost a year because he definitely came up, and it's hard to really get ready when your spring training is essentially the middle of everyone else's season. That's kind of tough. I don't know. I think they're still high on him, and maybe other teams are too. So there could be. I bet they at least dangle him and see what the interest is.
You could get some decent value for him back too.
Yeah.
The only guys
like an outfield bat that has power and can hit right now. That's major league ready.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Or maybe a fourth or fifth starter too, or maybe another pitching arm. I don't know if you need it, but
do we need that?
I think we got enough arms, man. We got an arm farm down there by the river, man. There's a lot of skill.
I feel like we're finally going to be ready. Let's talk about the pitchers. I feel like we're finally going to be ready to not have to bring in some 33-year-old mediocre pitcher to have a somewhat okay season and eat innings for us while our really good 23-year-olds marinate in AAA. I think we're ready to not do that. So RHETT LOWDER, who just got called up recently, made a second start today. Pitched really well, 6 in the third innings, 4 hits, no runs. He did walk 4 guys and only 3 strikeouts, but he was great. The Reds won 1-0, so he did his job. And even his first start was pretty solid. He walked 2 guys to start it, but then worked out of that without giving up a run. The final score of that game, I think, was 14-0. But I would say most of that was, of course, not RHETT LOWDER's fault. I think he came out with only a few runs on the board.
Yeah.
And he's flown through the ranks, and he pitched most of the season in AA and only made 1 start in AAA. And basically, as we've talked about, the pitching has been, unfortunately, a lot of injuries on the starters. So he had to kind of come up out of necessity. And I'm glad they made that decision. I think we talked about, were they worried about starting the clock? I'm not. I think there's enough. He'll probably get injured because that always happens. So like over the next 6 years, right? You're going to lose a month or two, no doubt. So we won't lose an extra year, I think, because of this. But no. So like looking at our rotation, I don't think we need to bring anybody else up or bring anyone else in. If you get a healthy Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Andrew Abbott, those are your three. Like no matter what, those guys are probably in the rotation. Graham Ashcraft, if he's healthy, I think he's a guy that deserves to be in the major league rotation. Connor Phillips even had a really good start back in AAA after working out of Arizona, hanging out with Steve for most of the season. And of course, Rhett Louder. I mean, Brandon Williamson's back now too. Nice little lefty arm who I think had a really underrated season last year. And I'm, again, disappointed that we missed most of this year with injury. Those are 6 or 7
Chase
names
Burns.
right there. Chase Burns, who's going to be up before we know it.
Yep.
Those are 6 or 7 solid pitchers. And especially when you consider that, the three or four core guys there aren't rookies anymore. And they're not second years anymore. Like they're established major league pitchers.
They're bona fide MLB veterans, in my opinion.
I argue if you're going to spend money, spend it on the bullpen. That you can always use help there.
Yeah.
Spend it on an outfield bat. We do not need starting pitching in Cincinnati in 2025.
I think we're set on that.
Yeah, and then like the move they made to bring in Martinez this year, like I feel like that's
he's been awesome.
been an
he's been great.
move.
Sign him again.
That. Yeah, like bring him back. I would love that. Like
him and that Junis guy, Jacob Junis, he's been pitching all right too, I think.
Yeah, I've liked Junis. I've liked what I've seen from him so far.
So Martinez has a player option for next year, but yeah, we would need to probably re-sign him.
Yeah, so
good.
I'd give him that Frankie Montas deal. Like, why not? He's proven to be better than Montas this year. So I would love to see that.
And he's giving you solid starts too, and you need him to.
Yeah. He's your swing guy, but like he's been starting for most of the last 2 months just out of necessity, and he's been great. Like I've really liked what I've seen from him.
What have you thought of Julian Aguiar?
I mean, they've won all 4 of his starts, so like I can't.
The numbers aren't great outside of like one start where he was really good, but I could see him being a bullpen arm.
Right. Yeah. I did find it interesting, Don. Not to call you. I'm not calling you out. I just I just noticed all the names that you guys said and you didn't say like Aguiar. I think that's fair for him. I don't think he's really a part of like the starting rotation plans for the future, but he's gotten his chance and he's pitched like fairly well enough in those games to like keep the Reds in the game, not have any blow up games. I liked him when he was in AAA. He was posting good numbers. He's one of those guys that's been in the system for a while, and to finally see him come up and do well, I'm happy for him personally. But I think you're right. Probably he's not really. I don't know if he's going to be featured as a long term rotation guy. Maybe he can like come up and make a spot start every now and then. But like I kind of wonder if they would try to make him into like the next Lucas Sims and teach him like just some nasty pitch that he can just come out and be your bullpen guy. Because I mean, when we got Sims, he was a starter and he was like starting games for us. I still remember that one game where he started like he went 8 1/3 in like 2019, and then pretty much after that he just went to the bullpen full time. So it's happened before. I don't know enough about Aguiar's pitching profile to really say one way or the other what they should do with him, but I mean he's taken his chance and he's run with it, so I'm happy for him.
Yep.
I would be interested to see if Ashcraft does come back next year, like come up and do something, just because he went down to AAA and you haven't really. Well, no, I'm sorry, no, I take that back. I keep thinking he went down to AAA. He's just been injured the rest of the year. So
he did go down to AAA at one point.
Yeah, and then they brought him back up for his bobblehead day. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
So, but Don, like, just make me dream of a Hunter, Lodolo, Louder, Abbott, and pick your 5th guy. Oh, it gets me excited. I like that a lot. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially if right around the time that we would be like in the last year of team control on some of those guys. So another year of development. Chase Burns is maybe up at that point. we could be back to calling the Reds the sickest rotation in Major League Baseball. So
we throw out all those names. We're speculating here, but like, watch it be like Carson Spires be the guy that comes in and snags that fifth spot.
Hey, good problem to have. If he's knocking the door down and just pitching too well to ignore, I'm okay with that. So,
has he started recently, Spires?
He's been like the bulk guy a couple times.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because he had a couple pretty good starts there, and then had a couple down starts. So that does make sense that they moved him to the bullpen. But I mean, I think we just named about 12 guys who could potentially start games for the Cincinnati Reds next year. I'd say that's pretty good. I agree.
Yeah. Well, and Steve, we also talked about the when we had that stretch there, we had like 3 straight bullpen games. It was like, well, why don't we just have an entire pitching staff of guys that can all throw like 3 innings? I think that could. I think there's some wisdom there. So we're really hoping
out of that. Yeah.
We're really hoping to not get that rule they're considering where you would have to have the 6-inning minimum. I think that's a little silly, and I don't think it realistically would happen. But if you could just throw all your best pitchers for 3 innings a game every couple days. Like, would there be value there? I wonder, just seeing Hunter Green like twice in the same series for like 3 or 4 innings each, like that could be crazy.
That would be.
Yeah. I would love to see you get Martinez out there, and then you just do a curveball, Lodolo, and then you get like another righty, just completely.
Yeah, you can change up the vibe so much. I wonder if we maybe not that this scenario specifically, but I like that we've been continuing to see teams do like innovative things like that. Like even just the opener idea of having a reliever pitch the first inning or 2 and then bringing in your starter after that. I think that was a really cool concept when that kind of, became popularized. And baseball is like such a unique sport where I think there's, for in a way, as rigid of a game is, it's not like football where you're calling plays and you can you can line up differently. In a way, it is what it is. Like you have to run the bases, you have to hit the ball. And so when you can find ways to get creative within that, I think it's pretty cool.
Like the contact play.
Oh, geez. Are we going to talk about the contact play, Steve?
No. I did want to bring up, though, that I do think it's pretty cool that teams have figured out, instead of sliding in a second on double plays, just like running through the bag, like stuff like that. I agree. I think it's pretty cool that we're still finding like innovation in a game that's like over 150 years old.
Yeah, that one's really cool. There are lots of teams that have scored runs that way. And if you're going to give up or out no matter what, it's a pretty good way to extend the play, extend the inning. The Reds had that done against them like a week or 2 ago, and the guy was actually safe because whoever was at second was so confused. And we just like got him in a rundown and then just like didn't throw the ball. That was fun.
Fundamentals.
Yeah. We're not nearly as bubbling out there as the White Sox, so I have that to, as frustrating.
Yeah, it's not the White Sox.
We're not on pace to lose 126 games, so it could be worse, Reds fans. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Poor Miguel Vargas, man. That's just man. I feel
the
for
pictures
him.
of him. Those are
that's brutal. Like you just feel bad for that guy. Like I do and I don't. Like he gets paid to play baseball for a living. But like where did he get traded from? Was it the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went from the Dodgers, like the best team in baseball, to the White Sox, the worst team in baseball.
Did you see Grady Sizemore last night?
I saw Grady Sizemore get tossed. That was hilarious.
Throws the Zin out and runs out there. I love it. Oh, classic.
So the last big kind of news piece that's happened since our last episode, the great first baseman, number 19, Joseph Daniel Votto.
JDV.
He announced his retirement from Major League Baseball. He was in AAA with on the Buffalo team for the Toronto Blue Jays minor league organization, and he was not hitting well. He was hitting below 200, striking out a bunch. Had like 1, maybe 2 home runs, I think. And he kind of saw the writing on the wall. And I think he talked about himself where he was glad he was able to make the decision. He actually wished he had made it earlier, but he decided to hang it up rather than like waiting until the off season and not getting a contract or something. He took it into his own hands before the season ended, and he said, "I'm done. Call it a year." So he never got called up for the Blue Jays. So he will have played every single baseball game for the Cincinnati Reds. And I know he wishes he had a chance to play for the hometown team. He's from and lives in Toronto. But I'm excited to see what he does next. And he was one of the greatest players in the Reds organization ever. A Reds Hall of Famer, no doubt, and should be a first ballot Major League Baseball Hall of Famer.
Yeah, certainly one of the best players I've ever seen in my lifetime. So it was kind of bizarre whenever he retired. Like, he's just one of those guys you think he's just going to play forever and ever. I think he broke into the league in like 2007, I believe, and I think I was in like 7th grade. So like, kind of a piece of my youth retired with Joey Votto whenever he decided to hang it up. And I thought his whole announcement was like pretty bizarre, but it was like very like Votto of him to announce like, I'm done. I'm announcing his retirement on Instagram in the parking lot of a minor league baseball field. Like, I don't know, there was something like very like Crash Davis Bull Durham about that I really appreciated.
Yeah, he was never one really for the spotlight. I mean, he definitely had to like grow into that role over his career. Like, he had talked about, just how his father passing away really like changed a lot for him. And then like, it's just for a guy that was kind of like, kept to himself a lot for his first 6 or 7 years. It was a joy to watch like kind of like the last 10 years, him really just open up and like become, part of like the city and part of like, just, be more active on social media, like kind of like just tell jokes, like, but while always still being a professional, like on and off the field and like doing everything the right way. Like I just, there's something about him that makes me feel like so happy just to have been able to watch him over like 17 years, like go ahead.
Go ahead. Like, he stuck around for as long as he did. He didn't have to. Like, he was on a lot of really, really bad baseball teams here. And he was, the bright spot for all those teams. And, it says a lot about him, of him, sticking out. Obviously he was getting paid a boatload of money to stay here, but like, it says a lot about him, like, not pounding the table and demanding a trade and wanting to go to a winner. And, he stayed here and he, was a Cincinnati Red for life.
Yeah, and I'm glad he got that year last season where he was able to kind of mentor some of those young players. And I think he really appreciated that, and like the way his role has changed over the years and whatnot, and being able to do that. And again, like you said, he absolutely could have had the leverage to demand a trade somewhere, and he could have been in Dodger blue for one of their runs, and who knows where he might have ended up if he had pushed for that. But he loved being in Cincinnati, and I think he loved mentoring those younger players. And I'll be interested to see what he does next. He could end up just going to the Mexican League and play until he's 50, like Manny Ramirez, or maybe he'll, at very least, I'm sure he'll spend a lot of time at the Reds, at the Reds facility in spring training, and maybe he'll find a role in a booth calling games. When he was injured, a couple seasons ago, he was a joy to listen to during games. So whatever he ends up doing, although I could imagine he just kind of takes at least a year to not really do anything. Whatever he does, I'll be excited to follow along.
Yeah. And, like one of the gripes I kind of had about the team this year was like, obviously like the money wasn't going to work out to bring Joey Votto back and have him play his last year here in Cincy. And, the entire speculation was there wasn't going to be enough at-bats for him. This was, the talk in spring training, but then, you get to, what is it? They're June and they're giving Mike Ford at bats. Joey Votto couldn't have gotten those at bats. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, Votto would not have done better.
Yeah. Who knows?
He looked pretty bad in AAA, so I can't imagine it would have been any better in the major league level. And it would have been nice to see him wear the Reds jersey.
It would have been more of a courtesy than anything. Like, obviously, wouldn't have been like as productive as he'd been in the past, but like you're just the tip of the hat courtesy. Like, yeah,
no doubt.
We'll let you go out here on your terms, kind of thing.
I mean, season's not over yet. He could theoretically still sign like a weekend contract, come out and play one last weekend with the Reds. Like, I mean,
Steve, what are your thoughts on people have said that about Johnny Cueto, who I think is a free agent now?
No, he's spent so much of his career with other teams. Like I respect it, and like I respect him, and but I feel like he's spent more of his career with the Royals and Giants than he did with the Reds by now.
Yeah, like he won a World Series with the Royals. Like he didn't really like he was a great pitcher for the Reds, but like he since that was a springboard for the rest of his career.
Well, and then like he's not going to go to the Hall of Fame, but like if he if he were going to go to the Hall of Fame, it'd probably be like a Royals hat on his plaque. So like like stuff like that. Like, you
Giants,
think so?
probably. Not, I mean, I
Giants?
know he won the World Series or whatever, but
Right.
it looks like he only had one season with the
Kind of
Royals.
Oh,
He had 6 seasons with the Giants, then he had 6 full seasons with the Reds.
Yeah.
7 seasons with the Reds, actually. So,
okay. Well, I'm not trying to shit on anybody's parade, but
yeah.
Like, it's been a while since I've seen Johnny Cueto in a Reds uniform. So
I remember seeing Johnny Cueto pitch in Dayton when I was a kid. He just like was mowing dudes down. It was incredible.
I still remember his first start with the Reds. It was like, he like struck out 10 dudes and pitched like through like 7 innings or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the stuff of legends for his first start. So I would not be upset if they brought Cueto back. I know we had some thoughts last year that they might bring him back, and I'm kind of glad that that didn't happen for a full season. But bring him back for one more start. I would love to see like Joey just sign a 1-day contract and officially retire as a Red. I know it's formality.
Cool.
He never played as like a professional Blue Jay, or he only played in their AAA. But man, I would just love to see that. And then like
teams do that. Didn't Matt Kemp just do that with the Dodgers?
Yeah. And like Nick Foles, for example, is going to do it in football with the Eagles, like in a couple of weeks, their first home Monday Night Football game of the year. Like I love those 1 day, like, give them the actual outing they deserve. So I think the best thing about Joey is that the thing you sent to us, Rob, the picture clips, Instagram, about how we got clipped in that is like how he got kicked out of his final game for arguing balls and strikes, and he was right. There was a ball. Like that's the stuff like you're gonna tell kids about later on. It's like, yeah, that guy knew the strike zone so well he ended his career over it.
Yeah.
Do you think they do Joey Votto Day this year, or do they wait until next year to do it? I'm kind of surprised they haven't done it already. Personally, I kind of thought they would do it like a week, like a week or two after he graduated, while it was still kind of fresh on everybody's mind.
I don't think they're going to try to do anything like that for the rest of the season. Its focus is elsewhere in Cincinnati.
You could probably
or like maybe they change the rules like they did with Marty Brennaman for the Reds Hall of Fame, where they put him in like the next year, like after he retires.
That could be cool.
Yeah, do that, and then do his then you wait till like do his number retirement ceremony, and then you bring him back if he gets into like I think they got like 5 years planned out for him. But I would just love to see him like come back and just do like, the ovation. Like, I don't think it's going to happen this year, like you said, Don, just because I think he wants to, and he said he just wants to, he responded to the Lookouts on Twitter. He's like, thanks, but I just want to enjoy my time with my family right now.
Right.
So yeah, I was like, okay, well, you didn't have to respond to the Lookouts, but good for you.
Maybe do some opening day for him next year.
Yeah.
While everybody's there.
Have him be the grand marshal at the parade. That'd be cool. Have him
get 2 birds stoned at once.
Yes, nice. Exactly. That'd be great. Hey, he can do that now too. I've heard some good things about Canada. So
yeah,
that's great. Well, anyway, I think that kind of wraps the baseball talk, at least for the eulogizing the season and Joey Votto's career. And we have consulted, so we're going to watch the remainder of the games. We'll just enjoy them casually as fans and not let it ruin our days when we lose. It's football season. The Bearcats are playing this weekend. The Bengals are playing this weekend. That's where my focus is. I don't know about you boys. And Steve, of course, we are less than 1 month away from your wedding back here in Cincinnati. You pretty pumped?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, we've been doing all this stuff, like calling vendors left and right, making sure everybody's it's nuts. So I don't know, man. It's like it's kind of unreal that it's been almost 2 years and we're almost here. But I'm just excited to see you boys out on the dance floor and just get jiggy with it.
Selfishly, Steve, I'm very happy with the location of your wedding because it is like down the street from my apartment. So like I'm planning on walking to your ceremony.
There you go. Perfect.
After party at Rob's too. We'll
exactly.
Party till 5 a.m.
Here we go.
Yep. Get the good stuff out. We'll go to Haps first and pay cash for all of our beers, and then go.
There we go.
Yeah,
I've been in Haps in a while. I might have to hit that up soon.
I was kind of hoping that I wasn't really hoping that it would affect the day, obviously, because the day is more important. But there was this like the 0.1% of me that was like, it would be cool if the Reds were in the postseason on my wedding day. But I did. So I'll end the podcast with this. I heard a story while I was in town in August for Emma's bridal showers and like for just a week there. So apparently one of my mom and dad's friends got married the night that the Reds completed the sweep of the 1990 Game 4 of the World Series. So their friends came to the wedding, but the game started at like 9:00 Cincinnati time, and it was a Saturday night too. So people were just ready to go. Apparently people brought brooms to the reception. They brought their tiny little TVs and transistor radios. And it must have started earlier than that. The game must have started at like 5 or 4 or something like that. I don't know. But so it was about enough time in the reception that like maybe dinner had ended 30 minutes before, and then Benzinger catches that last out. People will go crazy, raise their brooms. Everybody leaves the reception and goes down to Fountain Square and is just like partying downtown. And I was thinking about that as like, obviously like the bride and groom would be like, just like, what the fuck, man? We just spent all this money on our wedding just for like everybody to leave. Memory. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, but it's also the other part of like, yeah, I'm going to celebrate a World Series championship.
Sorry about it.
That doesn't happen every day.
See ya. So, but I just thought that was a great story. I wanted to share that on the pod.
Well, one day maybe we'll have that problem to deal with in Cincinnati.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I'll try to avoid scheduling my future wedding, right in the heart of playoff baseball season.
It's fun seeing all the people on social media like complaining about the fall weddings now, and like people raising a stink about it. It's fun.
Get over yourself, people. It's one day.
You can miss one regular season football Saturday. At least I think so.
And especially, it's not like it would be a home game, or if you would hope that it's at least not like a big home game or something. But Steve, I don't think the Bearcats don't even play that weekend. I think they're off.
We got lucky. We're off. My brother who plays at Dayton is off that weekend, and I checked the games for that Friday night, and it's like Stanford's playing a home game that night. It's like I think people can skip watching a Stanford home game. So
you had that date picked a long time ago, so you got really lucky then.
I got really lucky. I've been trying to play the lottery this year just because I've been lucky. And, no luck just yet, but
well, maybe we'll hit the casino sometime when you're here. I took Rob, and he couldn't really give me much. Or when we were, I
won 2 hands of like virtual blackjack, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you and me, Donnie, we'll be running the craps table by then.
Craps table, there you
go. Win and walk, baby.
On to football season. I can imagine maybe we cover. I'd say we probably don't have another episode until they start making moves after the playoffs. So
winter meetings, catch back up.
We'll do that. So
more than
a couple months off from the podcast. Enjoy.
By the start of next season, who knows? I might be moved back to Cincinnati by then. You never know.
Ooh, big news there.
The listeners out there.
A little reckless speculation, Steve.
I love it.
You know it.
All right, boys. This is it for Reds Country Radio. Go Redlegs.
Go Reds.
6 seasons, man. Let's get on to year 7, man. Go Reds.
That's a long time.